at Riverside, California. It will be a typical two-man shootout for the title.
I'm Helen Casey. Winston Cup stock car racing is centered in the southeastern United States. But as Jerry Garrett reports, Terry Labonte and Harry Gant will decide the title in somewhat different surroundings.
Twice a year, NASCAR's good old boys come to a different part of the South, South California, to Riverside Raceway, where they have the circuit's only 2 road course races. Back in the deep South, NASCAR's heartland, fans aren't too happy that the season ends out in Riverside. But NASCAR has fans out west, too, as these fellows can attest. And some of them have been camping out here for more than a week, waiting for their heroes to show up.
A week ago last Tuesday when we got here.
And these folks, they just love to see the title decided at Riverside. And this group, anyway, knows who's going to win that title.
Terry Labonte.
Naturally. No doubt about it.
From Riverside International Raceway, this is Jerry Garrett reporting.
Yesterday, Terry Labonte won the pole for tomorrow's race despite bouncing off the wall in the final turn. Darrell Waltrip starts second. Last year's winner, Bill Elliott, qualified 5th. Harry Gant starts in 13th position and will have some catching up to do in order to keep his championship hopes alive. Later today, we'll have the final round of the CART PPG IndyCar Championship, and we'll see the race that set the stage for tomorrow's Riverside Showdown right after this. The Atlanta Journal 500, seen live here on TBS Sports, provided a lot of thrills. Ned Jarrett reports.
Well, a week's delay didn't slow the speeds or the enthusiasm.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Jeff Bodine charged past pole center Bill Elliott on the first lap to take the lead. It was a mad scramble for second going into turn 3. Winston Cup point leader Terry Labonte found himself in a position he didn't need to be in with just a 49-point lead over Harry Gant. He couldn't afford to take chances, so he got out of there in a hurry. Back in the pack, Ken Reagan in car number 77, Bob Penrod in number 58, and Mark Stahl in number 82 tangled in turn 3 on the first lap. Reagan was the only one sidelined in that incident. Bodine led till the first pit stop, which was made during a caution displayed when Lenny Pond in car number 71 and Greg Saxon number 51 crashed on the front straightaway. Bill Elliott took over then and showed the strength of his Ford that carried him to a new qualifying record. But on lap 130, newcomer Terry Schoonover lost his life when his car hit the outside wall and careened across the track into the dirt bank on the inside of the track. It was only Schoonover's second NASCAR Winston Cup race. Harry Gant had started back in 5th position, but his Skoal Bandit backslid through the field. It had a vibration which was caused by a faulty wheel bearing. During the long caution from Schoonover's wreck, crew chief Travis Carter changed the entire right front spindle mechanism. They lost 8 laps, and it looked like their 1984 championship hopes had gone down the drain. Meanwhile, Terry Labonte was running strong in his Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet. He led the race at one point and was still in contention when the engine blew up, so Labonte thought that the tides had turned and maybe he had handed Gant the title. But Gant's luck didn't hold out either. His car started smoking. He finally had to park it. The end result was he only picked up 7 points on Labonte. Cale Yarborough got his car dialed in and was the class of the field in the midway point of the race. He collected a $10,000 bonus for leading at the halfway point. He faded then with a broken left A-frame. The last 200 miles belonged to the 3 single-digit car numbers 3, 5, and 9, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Bodine, and Bill Elliott. Bodine in car number 5 looked like he was on his way to his first ever superspeedway victory when the engine let go with just 35 laps to go. That left Earnhardt and Elliott to battle. Earnhardt's car began to show smoke near the end. He was losing oil, which could have been to his advantage. It spotted up Bill Elliott's windshield, which hampered his vision, so Dale hung on for his second victory of the season. Terry Labonte and Harry Gant will settle it all. The 1984 Winston Cup Championship tomorrow at the Riverside International Raceway. Of course, you'll be able to see that live right here on WTBS. For MotorWeek Illustrated, this is Ned Jarrett at the Atlanta International Raceway.
With the 7 points he gained on Sunday, Harry Gant trails Terry Labonte by 42 going into tomorrow's finale. Labonte can clinch the crown with a 7th place finish at Riverside. Live TBS Sports coverage of the Winston Western 500 begins at 2:05 Eastern Time tomorrow as we follow the Winston Cup Championship chase down to its final checkered flag. Last Thursday would have been a special day in the life of Terry Schoonover. He and his sponsor planned to announce the former boat and motorcycle racer turned Grand National stock car driver would run for the Winston Cup Rookie of the Year title in 1985. Instead, Schoonover was buried Thursday in Ohio, victim of that fatal crash last Sunday at Atlanta International. He was the first driver to die at AIR in the 25-year history of the track. Throughout his adult life, Schoonover had tried to locate his father, Jan, a championship boat racer of 3 decades ago, who divorced and left home when Terry was 2 years old. The two were reunited earlier this year, and Jan Schoonover tried to convince his son to give up stock cars in favor of powerboat racing. Terry refused. Last Sunday, he died in only his second Grand National race.
For a report on late-season dirt track stock car action, let's go to Bob Varsha.
Always a big part of the attraction of dirt track racing is the battle to keep the car going in the right direction. Sunday's Miller High Life National 100 at East Alabama Motor Speedway was no exception. Spin after spin kept the fans on their feet as the qualifiers sorted themselves out for the 100-lap final. Brian Leslie put his number 66 into the bushes with just 90 minutes to go before the feature event, but his crew managed to get the car rebuilt in time for the green flag. When that flag fell, pole sitter Larry Moore shared the front row with number 41, Buddy Boutwell, but not for long. While Moore faded with mechanical problems, Boutwell went to the front and was never headed. On lap 25, Freddie Smith retired the quick way when he caught fire. And just before the fuel stop on lap 50, Leslie's number 66 suffered the same fate. Neither driver was hurt despite all the excitement. Late in the race, two-time defending champ Jeff Purvis in number 15 and number 32 Bob Pierce tried to grab the lead and the $6,000 first-place check. But Boutwell held them off to complete his wire-to-wire sweep. Purvis and Pierce split the place and show positions. Reporting for MotorWeek Illustrated, this is Bob Varsha.
And we'll turn to road racing news when MotorWeek continues. Have been racing toward the opportunity for a postseason trip to Europe and a taste of international motorsports. When their big moment finally arrived, our Jim Roller went along.
The 4 Americans who came to the south of France got more than an opportunity for international competition. They saw a new part of the world. The ice-blue Mediterranean was the backdrop for the 3rd annual Renault Cup International Runoffs at Circuit Paul Ricard outside of Bandol, France. New experiences abounded for the Americans, from open-air markets to the cars they raced. Only series champion Mitch Wright had raced in France before, and he felt last year's experience gave him an edge.
I feel more prepared, and I think I was able to help the other guys prepare and what to expect with the cars, what to expect with our competitors. I think it's definitely an advantage.
After practice, a 2-day layoff left the Americans floundering. The race found each having his own misadventures with a very aggressive European field. Number 4, Alan Pope, was roughed up when he was T-boned trying to get back onto the track. The wild and aggressive style is mastered early by the European Renault Cup drivers. Number 3, Charlie Downs, narrowly escaped this fracas, only to be involved in 2 more. One knocked out fellow American Parker Johnstone, and the other ended Downs' day. A frustrated Johnstone summed it up for the Americans who failed to finish.
Tom Stephen once said if and buts were candy and nuts, and that's pretty much the way this is.
Mitch Wright, number 1, was the lone Yank to take the checkered flag, but only after being punted off and left in last place on lap 1. Wright charged back to 12th from 40th and called it the drive of his life.
The Americans didn't do as well as they would have liked, but it's a trip that they'll never forget.
Oh, yeah, we've all had a great time, and I wouldn't give this trip up for the world.
It was a wonderful time. We've spent a number of terrific nights in 3-star, 4-star restaurants, and the food's been terrific. It's been the France you hear about all along.
Reporting from Paul Ricard in the south of France, this is Jim Roller.
That looks like fun. Elsewhere, Sunday's Caesars Palace Grand Prix in Las Vegas not only wrapped up the IndyCar Championship, but also rang down the curtain on the Trans Am and Super V seasons. Phil Van Horn reports.
The Trans Am finale was without championship drama. Tom Ploy and his 711 Mercury wrapped up the title in their last outing, but this race had its moments. Mid-race leader rookie Wally Dallenbach Jr. had a scare when Jim Miller spun among the front runners. Dallenbach battled gamely in his black Camaro to hold series champ Ploy at bay, but eventually surrendered to Tom, who claimed his 3rd win of the year. Last year's champ David Hobbs took 3rd, while runner-up Dallenbach drew rave reviews from the winner.
Wally is a fabulous young driver. I really hope there's some way that I can hook up together with him sometime, because I think there's some extra things I can teach him, and he's just a fabulous talent and a neat kid. Real super individual.
Let's take a look at the final Trans Am standings. Gloy wins the championship from his Mercury Capri teammate Greg Pickett. Says he'll be back next year to make it 2 in a row. And the Super V champion is Arie Luyendyk, the Dutchman. After a second-place finish Sunday, Chip Robinson spun and lost his shot at the title. Roger Penske Jr. retired after that race. Says he'll go into business with his famous father. Several weeks back, we told you about a dispute involving Jean-Marie Balest, the controversial president of the International Autosport Federation, the ruling body of international racing. Balest is quarreling with officials of the famed Monaco Grand Prix over television rights money. That wrangle threatened cancellation not only of the Grand Prix, but also the famed Monaco Rally. But in an exclusive interview with MotorWeek's Jim Roller, Balest seemed optimistic the problem could be resolved.
I'm optimistic because I was last week in meeting with a member of the Monaco government, and I think we have all chance to have an agreement, and the Monaco Grand Prix stays in the World Championship.
Balest was so confident an agreement could be worked out that he gave Monaco officials an extra month to come up with a solution. Last Wednesday, in a surprise response, the government officials broke off negotiations with Balest's people. And on Thursday, the Monaco Grand Prix and the Monaco Rally were officially dropped from the 1985 calendar. There were two big stories at Caesars Palace Casino in Las Vegas last weekend. The race decided the series championship and demonstrated again the aggressive position of the IndyCar sanctioning body. Jerry Garrett reports.
The 4th annual Caesars Palace Grand Prix took place because the sanctioning body, Championship Auto Racing Team, thought it deserved another chance. From the verdict to the fans, looked like it was worth it.
The earlier Grand Prix here failed to draw big crowds, but this one was standing room only. And the lure seemed to be more than just the championship showdown between Mario Andretti and Tom Sneva. Andretti had a commanding 18-point lead coming in here. Sneva needed to win, with Andretti dropping out to take the title. Although he crashed in a morning warm-up, Sneva did what he had to do in the race. John Paul Jr.'s number 17 erupted from the second row to take the first lap lead. But number 5, Bobby Rahal, kept the pressure on and soon went to the front. When Rahal and several other of the leaders pitted, number 76, Jacques Villeneuve, took the lead over surprisingly fast A.J. Foyt. But Foyt caught fire, and Villeneuve pitted almost simultaneously. On lap 66, Rahal returned to the lead and stayed there until he lost a wheel. Andretti then led briefly, as did Villeneuve. On lap 125, Sneva took the lead from Villeneuve, but Al Unser Sr. then passed Sneva. They traded the lead again and were racing wheel to wheel when Unser spun off the course. Villeneuve then crashed, and Sneva found himself with a commanding lead. At the checkered flag, Sneva had a 6-second lead over a very cautious Andretti. John Paul Jr. rallied for third. The finish gave Andretti the championship by 13 points over his challenger.
You know, we got the home run, but he got the double, and, you know, they had a good year, and I got to congratulate the Budweiser team.
Andretti's national championship was the 4th of his career, but first since 1969.
It wasn't easy. It was a tough day for me, and it was just a second race that I drove just like driving on eggs.
From Las Vegas, this is Jerry Garrett reporting.
Al Unser Sr. had some harsh words about Vegas winner Tom Sneva's driving style after that race. The two collided while battling for the lead, and Unser crashed. He then gestured at Sneva. The next time Tom came by, Tom said he thought Al was signaling his position on the racetrack, first place. On another subject, Unser confessed at Vegas that he is now out of work. Seems his car owner Roger Penske has chosen not to re-sign last year's series champion. Look for Danny Sullivan to replace Unser. That's a rags-to-riches story. 2 years ago, Sullivan was fired by the Forsythe brothers IndyCar team after 2 races. He did a year of Formula One road racing, came back to IndyCars, won 3 events this year, and now has one of the most sought-after jobs in motorsports as a Penske team driver. Let's check the other IndyCar lineup changes. Al Unser Jr. will drive for the new Winkleman Lotus team next year. Jeff Brabham will replace Al Jr. in the Gallus Racing Team car, and Kevin Kogan will take Brabham's seat on the Craco team. And what will Al Unser Sr. do? Most interesting rumor we heard this week is that he may drive for A.J. Foyt next year. Earlier we mentioned the aggressive approach of CART, the IndyCar sanctioning body, which not only sanctioned the Vegas race but also promoted it. John Frasco, kart chairman, defends that dual role. He says the old ideas about sanctioning bodies are outdated.
We have to take the lead in promoting our sport. Whether that means promoting the series or whether it means promoting an individual race, it depends on the circumstances. But we're not going to sit back and let anybody else outdistance us in promoting our sport. So I think the role of the sanctioning body in terms of what CART believes in is entirely different than the historical role of a sanctioning body, where you think of them basically as coming into town and officiating a race. We are much of a promotional body as we are a sanctioning body.
Well, IndyCar veteran A.J. Foyt, one of CART's most outspoken critics, took a different view of CART's promotional role and the organization in general when our Jim Roller asked him if he'd like to be a CART director.
No, I'd never want to be a board of director. I was one of the founders of CART, and it's kind of Mickey Mouse the way it's run at the present time with Frasco and them and Kirk Russell. To me, they're not very good promoters at all. You know, they just don't call a spade a spade. You know, Roger Penske's involved with them, and, you know, you can't own race cars and run a sanction body. And when CART was founded, myself, Jim Hall, and Bob Fletcher, a lot of us wanted to organize it. But then they got into the race promotion and all that, and they're not really set up that qualified, know all about racing and promote racing. They've got some good sponsors, but it's very poorly run.
Following last Sunday's Caesars Palace Grand Prix, the CART PPG IndyCar Awards Banquet saw the distribution of the richest postseason point fund in American motorsports. But we thought the highlight of the evening was Pat Patrick's honor as CART's most persistent car owner. Pat's drivers demolished 17 very expensive race cars this year and didn't win a race. Racing would be in trouble without persistent owners like Pat, willing to make huge investments that sometimes don't pay off. Pat Patrick, you get our Wrangler U.S. Air Force Reserve Behind the Scenes Award and a new outfit from Wrangler. The big star of that awards banquet was our champion spark plug Racer of the Week. Mario Andretti has now won 4 IndyCar titles, his last 2 15 years apart. In between, he won the World Driving Crown. A veteran of 25 years of racing, Mario still gets a little choked up when he pays tribute to those who make it all possible.
Nothing better could have happened to us as a team, and I'm just so happy for the team, really, because it's a job well done for them. And gosh, like I said, how sweet it is.
Ah, sweet indeed for our champion racer of the week, 1984 CART PPG IndyCar champion Mario Andretti, now in the running for a Honda 500 Interceptor motorcycle that goes to our racer of the year. Now let's take a quick look back at the American Powerboat Association Offshore World Championships last Saturday at Key West, Florida. While we check the results, we're going to watch Peter Aiken in his Pro Stocker Black Duck. Peter won his class at Key West a year ago, then parked the boat for the entire '84 season. But Aitken blew the dust off the duck for the World Championships and then blew the gunnels off his competition. Nice job, Peter. Now, from sunny Arizona, an aquatic form of motorsport we haven't seen for a while on MotorWeek, this is the National Jet Ski Racing Championship. The man you're watching, the undisputed king of jet skis, Larry Rippenkrieger. The Ripper was in fine form at the Nationals, negotiating the serpentine course and floating obstacles without a hitch, leading the race from wire to wire and claiming his 4th national crown. Several weeks ago, we promised you a look at a unique week-long boat race in Mexico. Today, we finally have time for that. With a little help from Tina Turner, here's the Balsas River Marathon. It starts out nice and easy, but, well, let's let Tina tell you about it.
We never, ever do nothing nice and easy. We always do it nice and rough. You come down to the river,
we have it on good authority that next year Orlando Wilson is going to run the Balsas in a 20-foot bass boat. I'd pay to watch that. For the record, they raced like that for 5 days, 375 miles. In that wild and woolly affair, the winners were Eduardo Cesarman, Alberto Namnoon, and Pedro Garcia. Now, from the looks of that videotape, I'd say they earned their money. With that, we're off to Riverside, California. TBS coverage of the Winston Western 500 starting tomorrow afternoon, live and flag to flag at 2:05 Eastern Time. Join us then.
I'm Helen Casey. We'll be back next Saturday with the Winston Cup Stock Car Champion, the Oregon Trail Pro Rally, motorcycle drag racing, and a lot more.
I'm Dave Despain. We'll see you next Saturday at this same time on MotorWeek Illustrated.